Good evening, doctors. For today, I will be talking about external ear infections together with Langit, Dr. Langit, and Dr. Santos, and yours truly, Dr. Magbugay. For the applied anatomy, the external ear is composed of auricle, which is elastic which was composed of elastic cartilage except the lobule. For the external ear canal, it is 2.5 centimeter in length, wherein the anterior wall is 6 millimeter longer than the posterior wall. Then the lateral one-third is cartilaginous skeleton with subcutaneous layer, sebaceous and apocrine glands, and a squamous epithelial surface layer. The fissures of Santorini allow the spread of infection or neoplasms from the external canal to the soft tissues surrounding the ear canal. Meanwhile, the osseous portion could be seen at the narrow isthmus, and it is formed mostly by the tympanic portion of the temporal bone and a thin layer of squamous epithelium, and it lacks subcutaneous layer. So for the first part, we will be talking about your otitis externa. So it is inflammatory in nature, typically infectious, wherein it is a disorder of the external ear canal. So for every 1,000 children and adults per year, there are also 80% of cases occur in the summer, and there are predisposing factors, which includes your hearing aid or earplug use, self-induced trauma, which could be induced by your cotton swabs, and swimming, and anatomic obstructions of the ear canal, such as your exostosis and impacted cerumen. For the pathogenesis, it would generally start with your abrogation of the hydrophobic ceruminous coating of the external ear, which could lead to your edema and excoriation of the epithelial layer. Then it would become violations of the epithelium, which would allow for bacterial infections. Then there would be progressive erythema and edema, which could now present as itching, pain, and otorrhea. For the fungal, it is said to be opportunistic, and it occurs after treatment of bacterial infection. And superficial infections of the ear is usually by yeast, and usually it is common in those people who use your hearing aid. For the chronic otitis externa, it could be your allergic otitis externa, which could be due to allergic reaction to topical agents such as your neomycin. It could manifest as maculopapular eruption on the skin of the conchal bowl and ear canal. For the contact dermatitis, from contact with various agents, which includes your hairsprays, shampoos, and hearing aid molds. For the psoriasis or systemic dermatitis, seborrhea can involve the ear canal. Then the chronic inflammatory reaction could lead to your hyperkeratosis and lichenification of the ear canal skin. Then granular otitis externa, from chronic infection of the ear canal by bacteria or fungal or both. Ear canal skin and tympanic membrane manifest granulation and excoriation. For the microbiology, Pseudomonas aeruginosa was the most common bacteria. Next to it would be your Staphylococcus species. And fungi were responsible for only 2% of the cases, but may be more prominent in cases of persistent or chronic infection. Clinical manifestation could include pain, itching at early stage in bacterial, oral fullness, decreased hearing, and otorrhea. For the examination of the ear canal, it could be an erythematous canal with scant discharge in cases of early bacterial otitis externa, or an edematous canal filled with purulent squamous debris in cases of well-established bacterial otitis externa, or an accumulation of white debris sprouting hyphae best seen with the otologic microscope, typical of Candida otitis externa, and an accumulation of a moist white plug dotted with block debris, wet newspaper typical of Aspergillus niger. Or it could be a maculopapular eruption on the conchal valve and in the ear canal consistent with an allergic reaction to a topical agent, or a thickened erythematous canal associated with an allergic or contact dermatitis, or a granulation tissue in the canal and on the tympanic membrane caused by chronic infection. For the treatment, it could include your careful debridement, topical medications, earwick for edematous canal, and homemade mixture of 1:1 of white vinegar and rubbing alcohol, Vosol or Domeboro, or drying the ear, or the antibiotics drop is the mainstay of the treatment. For the ideal drop, it should be a broad spectrum coverage for pathogenic bacteria, an acidic vehicle, no potential for ototoxicity, no potential for allergic reaction, no deposition of precipitate from the drop, low cost, a steroid to decrease edema more rapidly and perhaps alleviate pain more rapidly. However, there is no walang gamot na tinataglay yung mga characteristics na to. However, the mainstay of treatment would be combination of polymyxin, neomycin, and hydrocortisone, or known as your PNH. Ofloxacin could be used for external and middle ear disease. However, the disadvantage would be the pH is around 6.2 to 6.8, and absent yung steroid, and mas expensive siya. For ciprofloxacin, it could be added with your hydrocortisone or dexamethasone. So the advantage is that it is acidic plus it contains your steroid. For fungal otitis externa, you could have clotrimazole 1% solution. Then you could have your cressolate, otic, and ketoconazole, gentian violet, tolnaftate for fungal or presence of tympanic membrane perforation, and oral itraconazole for canal edema or if there is a failure to respond to any topical treatment. For the complication, it could include your cellulitis, perichondritis, and chondritis. And adults could be treated with your quinolones, while your children could be treated with an anti-staphylococcal, which could be taken orally. While your if found na positive in Pseudomonas, we could use anti-pseudomonal drugs. If there is middle canal fibrosis, which composed of thick fibrous scar at the middle end of the ear canal, just lateral to the tympanic membrane and end stage of chronic otitis externa, it could be treated surgically through canalplasty.